From the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, it is Jags A.M. JP Shadrick with John Oehser, and we start right off the rip today with Judy Battista, NFL Network, the GOAT. Nice to see you. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. Good. How are you?
Well, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. Thanks for taking some time this morning. We've got plenty to get to. We'll hear from Liam Cohen and James Gladstone coming up in just a little bit, but here we are again, Jaguars with a new staff in place. The process to get to this point, I feel like we've had this story at the Combine a lot over the last 13 years or so, but this is the youngest of the
oh my goodness
group. What do you think?
They're young, but I think that's okay. First of all, we've seen that trend in the NFL, going towards younger. Energy seems to be a big thing that teams want, right? That factor, I think we saw that in Carolina when they hired Dave Canales last year. Same sort of thing. They wanted that vibe and somebody who can connect with a young quarterback. And that's certainly when you hear them, and you don't even need to hear them, you just know it. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to know they've got to connect and get the most out of Trevor to make this work.
And the McVay tree, if you will, as trees do, they seem to be sort of growing roots and defining a lot of the league the way other systems have in the past. What do you think about their approach works overall, in that it's becoming such a mainstay of the league?
Well, I do think the emphasis on offense, is just, and the emphasis on quarterback play and quarterback development. This is where the league is, right? I think we all love the idea of, well, defense wins championships, and that's true to a degree. But if you don't have top-level quarterback play, you don't go anywhere. And Philadelphia is absolutely the perfect example of that, right? They have tremendous defensive play. They have a tremendous running back. But if Jalen Hurts doesn't have a great stretch during the playoffs, and certainly in the Super Bowl, are they the world champions right now? I don't think so. You're still not getting there without top-level quarterback play. And so to the extent that the McVay tree has produced guys who can connect with quarterbacks and get the best out of quarterbacks, that's what's going to be successful these days.
Judy Battista, NFL Media, with us. It's Mr. Khan's 14th season of ownership coming up. You're close to a lot of the ownership around the NFL. He's going to be 75 years old next year. He's done it a number of different ways, putting together football leadership, but now he's split it up into three distinct roles: the head coach, the GM, and the EVP of football operations, and Tony Baselli. What is the general consensus on Mr. Khan's ownership around the league when you hear from others in a similar position?
Well, first of all, I think most importantly for fans, right, he is willing to invest his money in the team and in surrounding them with everything they need to be successful, right? The facility, the training facility is fantastic, right? They're going to upgrade the stadium. He is willing to spend whatever it takes to win. Then it is just a matter of the GM and, football ops, doing their jobs well, and coaches doing their jobs well. But from an ownership perspective, he is what you want, because he is willing to put his money behind what he wants, but he is also not meddling, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is empowering people, right? And he did that he's done that with past regimes too, but he empowers his people that he thinks are the right people to do what they think needs to be done. The question is, has he empowered the right people? But that's the same question that every franchise faces. And, Shad is a relatively new owner in the scheme of the NFL. You've seen franchises with much longer ownership tenures, right? Family owners who have been family owners since the very beginning who struggle with this. So it's not a matter of Shad's too new at this, he still doesn't know what he's doing. No, they all struggle with it at some point. So I think for fans, he's what you want in an owner, because he is willing to spend what needs to be spent.
I think what people lose sight of that is it takes a while for an owner to figure out how to do it, and each sort of regime you put in, it's not like there's a 6-month learning curve on that.
No,
each regime you put in is a 4 or 5 year process, so it tends to take a while. And it's like you said, there's really no magic everybody asks me all season, should they do an EVP? Should they do just GM?
You're right.
There's no magic formula, right?
No. Some have it
involved.
and it works, and some don't and it works. Like it's just, do you have the right people in place? And so, let's be honest, so much of this is luck. Do you hit on the right quarterback? Does that quarterback continue to develop? Do you avoid injuries? I mean, just on a year-to-year basis, so much of wins and losses goes to things that you just can't even anticipate.
I have questions for the NFL expert.
Well,
Judy
she's sitting
Battista.
right here.
Dear.
Right.
Don't look over here.
I was turning
look
to
over
you
that
to
way.
tell you I was going to talk to the expert.
She's right there.
Off-season trends, as you start to look at the off-season, what's going to shape the NFL until we get to maybe OTAs? What are going to be the storylines you're looking for at the owners' meetings, et cetera?
Well, first, I mean, at the owners' meetings, I'm curious to see how much more they add to replay assist, because
which is a slippery slope when they do that, right?
Correct. Now, I think they liked the way it worked last year, which was, basically hits to the head and neck of a quarterback, like it very narrowly defined. They would allow replay assist to say, like, nah, they didn't really hit them in the head, pick up the flag. But they want to add more. Roger Goodell said this. They want to use technology to help officials. He spent a lot of time defending officials at the Super Bowl. And I think they recognize the game is so fast that it is very hard for officials to officiate it correctly in real time, whereas the rest of us who get to watch on a monitor and see a million replays and slow motion, oh, obviously that person was hit in the head.
Right.
Why wasn't a flag thrown? Of course that's a face mask. Well, not when the guys are running at full speed and the official is trailing. It's very hard to see. So I'm curious to see how much more replay assist they're willing to use. They've always been reluctant to use it to, add penalties that were not already thrown on the field. And that is the question, is, are they going to cross that bridge?
Well, because that's the spirit of replay originally was get the call right if the guy in the sports bar can see it, right?
Correct.
And then when you're talking about what you're talking about, are they bringing back pass interference into it, which is just
now that
a
I
thing.
think that I think scarred them so significantly that it's going to be a long time before we get to subjective calls being reviewable.
Right.
That was
Well, you move
such a
toward
fiasco.
that,
But
right.
you're moving toward things like that.
What about the push play?
Sure.
Yeah. So, nothing I've ever tweeted got as much traction as when I tweeted that there was a team that wanted to get rid of the push play.
And it was the Packers that brought it up,
It is the Packers, and Mark Murphy, who is about to retire, had written about his opposition to the push play. Here's the thing about the push play. It looks like a play that should cause injuries, right? Except it's run so infrequently that there's no injury data. So the league can't look at it and say, look at all this injury data, we got to get rid of this play. There's just nothing to suggest that, because, knock on wood, Jalen Hurts doesn't get hurt. They're awesome at it. Very few other teams even attempt it. So there's not that thing that could push them to ban it. There's also the element of people who just think, this doesn't really look like a football play, right? This looks like a rugby play. Should we allow that? It doesn't feel right. The reality of the situation, though, is once a defense stops it, people will stop running it, right? The fact is, nobody has effectively stopped it, right? And nobody's stopped it. Knock on wood, nobody's gotten hurt. I keep saying, and this is a fatalist way of looking at it, but the first time a quarterback attempts it and gets his shoulder dislocated will be the last time that play is run, right? That will be the end of the play. It's very hard to get 24 votes on anything, very hard to get ownership to agree on anything, 24 votes. I'd be really surprised if they get rid of it, because I think the answer is stop it. Get your defense to stop it, and we'll stop running it.
Jaguars stopped it twice this year.
That's right.
On 2-point plays.
They
blew up the center and hit him in the nameplate, and his rear end went up and ran into the quarterback.
I mean, the reality is, you heard Nick Sirianni. He's like, I'm sort of offended by this. They're really good at it, and they practice it, which is why other teams are not as good at it, because, first of all, they don't have a quarterback who can squat whatever it is he squats, 600 pounds or something ridiculous. They don't have, Jordan Mailata. They always run it right behind him, right? And he goes down low. They didn't have Jason Kelsey, who could really go. So they don't have the personnel. They don't have the commitment to running it. They're not practicing it the way the Eagles do. If other teams had those elements, they would be able to run it too. And defenses need to figure out how to stop it. You saw the Chiefs in the Super Bowl try to line up. Chris Jones turned sideways. He got hurt, I think, on that play. So that was a disaster.
There's one of the injury data right there. Injury data.
again, I hate to put it this way, but the first time it's run and a quarterback gets blown up and gets hurt, that will probably be the last time it gets run.
Yeah, and then there's the precedent. If you stop that play, the next time somebody comes up with a play, well, why don't you stop that too?
Right.
So,
You got to. I would be really surprised if they ban it. Let's put it that way.
Judy Battista, NFL Media, final couple minutes with you. We mentioned the new group here, Baselli, Gladstone, Cohen. How long's the honeymoon last?
First week of the season, usually. I think you have to give new regimes time. I mean, unless it is just a complete catastrophe, which obviously we've had before. But I think you have to give them some time to get the players that they think fit their program. You can't redo a roster in one off season. You can do a lot, but you can't do the whole thing. You got to give them time to get their program in. But they got to win some games too. And I think mostly what you have to see to convince you that this is going to work is, does Trevor get righted? And right, because a few years ago Trevor was clearly on the upward path, right, and was soaring, and they made the push into the playoffs, and you're thinking, wow, the future is now, they look great, and then things have just declined since then. And so I think the first thing you got to see is, does Trevor look comfortable? Are they doing things in the offseason to help Trevor? Are they shoring up the offensive line, right? Like, they got to work on that. Like, are they doing things that will enhance the fact that you have this guy?
Two final thoughts on rules. Do they care enough about kickoffs to adjust it again?
Yes.
And can they fix onside kick? Is there anything like that?
I think they're probably going to adjust the kickoff to move the touchback line up to the 35. That will incentivize teams not to kick it into the end zone. That should give you more returns. Hopefully they keep the concussion rate low, because that was the real reason for changing the kickoff. On onside kick, they have been discussing with the special teams coaches changing the alignment. The problem with the onside kick is, if you're a kicking team and you're trying to recover an onside kick, how do you do that? Well, you blow up the other guy, right? Like, you just absolutely
which is the last thing they want,
which is what they don't want.
Right.
So they got to figure out a way, like, if you adjust the alignment, do you give a team the better chance to recover? They only need, the historic rate of recovery of an onside kick is only 13.5%. So you don't have to generate all that many. You just have to generate some.
Right.
So we'll see if they come up with that.
They have to make it somewhat more interesting.
Yes,
because it's a sleeper play.
Right now it is a ceremonial play, and they don't want those.
Would they do the 4th and 15 idea?
There's still teams that think that's something to look at, but I mean, you talk to some coaches, not coaches, some owners who say that is gimmicky, and we don't want that.
Yeah.
That's always been the argument against it, but they also have to come up with something.
Judy, you're the best. Judy Battista, NFL Media. Always a pleasure to visit with you.
Great to be here with you guys. Good to see you.
Have
Fantastic
a great
stuff.
rest of the week.
Thank you.
How long are you here?
I leave my hotel tomorrow at 4 a.m. My flight's at 6 a.m., so not much longer.
Veteran move.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
Thanks,
exactly.
Judy.
Thanks.
See you later. Judy Battista with us. Back in a moment. We'll hear from Jaguars head coach Liam Cohen. When we return, it's Jags A.M.
Floridians, do you know how close you are to freshness? It's not a plane or a ship ride away. It's not across an ocean or over the equator. It's not even a far drive. The peak of freshness is at your grocery store, and it's called Fresh from Florida. Fresh from Florida is local produce grown by farmers right here in our own state, meaning it's always fresh, always in season, and always mouth-wateringly good. Look for the sunny Fresh from Florida logo or ask for it by name where you shop.
Hey Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat, it's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor. So wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 sauces are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style.
And that's a Magellan first down.
Move the freight, move the freight, move the freight.
Would you like to control your own income? Work at Magellan Transport. Voted the coolest office space in Duval. Bring your talents and let your career flourish. Visit their website at MagellanLogistics.com and apply online. Trust service. Trust Magellan.
Welcome back. It's Jags A.M. from the Indiana Convention Center in Indianapolis, just across the street from Lucas Oil Stadium. The NFL Scouting Combine is underway, and the first prospects were at the podium this morning. Defensive linemen. The on-field work begins a little bit later this week. J.P. Shadrick, John Oehser, thanks to Judy Battista of NFL Media. Let's get into the big things of the week, John, and start off with Liam Cohen, the Jaguars' new head coach, making the rounds yesterday at the podium on Radio Row, doing some one-on-ones, and with us as well. There's that big question about who has final say.
Just doesn't even hit my brain. That's what's crazy about the question. Is I get the question, we all do, but if that's what's driving us, we have no shot. We have no shot. Ego and agenda will not take place in this organization for us. It just won't. If we cannot make a decision, we are completely on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to any decision. We've got to move on from that decision. How do we pivot? There's especially with player acquisition. There's so many players that we can go and move on to that maybe we're closer on, right? If we're completely on the opposite ends of the spectrum, we got to move on.
That's the head coach, John, and pretty clearly they are trying to
yeah.
They're hearing that question a lot.
Well, sometimes reality and the way people analyze things differs from how they're different. People always want to know what final say is, and the reality is once you get inside a building, you're talking about draft picks, you're talking about free agents, it's usually not a situation where the GM and the head coach are sitting on opposite sides playing battleship, sinking each other, right? There's usually common ground. They all know who the good players are. Hey, can we afford this guy? With this bunch, I just don't think there's going to be holy wars in that sense. And I think the approach that they're taking makes a lot of sense. Look, if there's a guy that they're not aligned on, then it's not going to work anyway. So move on to the next guy. And now, at some point, if in 2 years they're not winning and there's battles and whatnot, because that kind of thing happens, then that might change. But this system, as they're doing it, it makes sense. They've all come from that sort of system, and it's what they're going with. So we'll keep hearing about final say, and they'll keep laughing at it.
I just picture when you said the battleship, the electric battleship game with the noises and the thing. Yeah, you sunk my battleship.
Yeah, yeah. So
now that would be interesting.
That would be a good Jaguars behind the scenes.
It certainly would. Let's hear from James Gladstone, Jaguars GM, also on the podium yesterday here in Indianapolis, making the rounds with us as well. Clear communication is key.
That is such a key component to finding success, really in any walk of life, right? In any partnership. So it's definitely something that I value. And, I think back to my dad was such an influence on my life in a small group setting. I don't think that there's anybody who does a better job than him. And so to emulate kind of his cadence, his rhythm, things like that, it was easy to apply that because I grew up in the same house as him, right? So he was my football coach. He was a guy that I worked with as a coach. So, being around that for so many years, it was just easy to emulate.
Gladstone, 34 years of age now, the general manager.
Well, he's really impressive. I mean, I didn't know much about him because there's really no way to know a lot about assistant general managers and other teams. They're not in the media a whole lot. They don't talk to the press a whole lot, so you don't get a feel for what these guys are like. You can tell very quickly, listening to him and talking to him, that this guy is a communicator on a high level. And you might say, well, so what? Everybody can talk, right? Everybody can communicate. But as he said, I don't think it was in that soundbite, the NFL is so complex and there's so many moving parts and there's so many different people involved that the ability for the general manager to communicate exactly what they're looking for, exactly what they're looking for in a player, exactly what the goals are, exactly what the objectives are, and to get people on the same page and talking and get his systems working, it's very difficult. Bill Polian, who I worked with in Indianapolis, was very good at that in terms of making sure the scouts knew what the coaches wanted and the coaches could communicate what they're looking for in players. I haven't been around James Gladstone. He's never been a GM, so I can't compare him to a Hall of Famer. But he does seem to have that trait of being able to communicate his ideas and his thoughts very well. And I think that's very important for a GM. And he's I don't want to get into a brain brawl competition with him, put it that way, because I'm not going to win.
No, probably not.
He's a sharp guy.
He is. Let's now finish with our final big thing today, the path forward. And it really begins with meetings here at the Combine for the coaching staff. Yes, they're having meetings with prospects and the normal Combine activities here, interviews and watching testing and all that, but they're also having staff meetings just trying to get their systems in place, offense, defense, and everything. Well, they can't waste any time, so it begins, the path forward begins here in Indianapolis. The entire staff is here.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a topic because Gladstone got hired in late February and you have free agency 3 weeks away. But I think the way they explained it makes a lot of sense. Most teams don't, if you think about the calendar, JP, we've been around this for a while, most teams don't start releasing players for cap reasons and signing even other teams' released free agents until a few days before free agency begins, because the meetings are really taking place now. There's other things going on in January, and then they start full bore on free agency right now. So I think Gladstone's going to be very busy in the next few weeks getting caught up on, to use his word, calibrated with everything else that's going on. But the system that the Jaguars have had in place has been ongoing already. So it's an interesting week on that front. They're bonding. It sounds like they're on a really cool road trip where there's camaraderie going on. I think that's an element for them.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of football stuff, I just don't think it's going to set them behind at all in what they're trying to do. And I think by the time the league year rolls around, it's going to feel pretty seamless, and you're not going to get the sense at all of a franchise behind.
Yeah, we're closing in on the start of the league year, March 12th.
Comes up quick.
Yeah.
And just think when they move the Super Bowl back one more year. I mean, or one more week.
Oh,
so
boy.
it's a quick turnaround in the offseason for all teams.
There you have it. We're back in a moment. Plenty more ahead here from Indianapolis on Jags A.M.
Can you imagine rising for work before the crack of dawn? Tending to hundreds of acres of land before dusk? Well, that's what happens on 47,000 Florida farms every day. Florida's farmers work hard to grow nutritious food for you and your family. And you can help support them by enjoying delicious Fresh from Florida produce. Look for the sunny Fresh from Florida logo where you shop, or visit freshfromflorida.com to learn more.
Sims Crane and Equipment is the Southeast premier crane rental company since 1959. Serving Florida, Georgia, and Alabama with cranes up to 800 ton for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is the Tadano rough terrain crane dealer for the state of Florida. Inspired by the past, committed to the future. Choose Sims Crane and Equipment for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
When it rains, it better drain. If storm drains on your commercial property aren't doing their job, this is a major liability that needs to be corrected. Call Duck Duck Rooter to have your storm drains jetted and cleaned with our powerful vac con truck. We'll clear the way for better drainage. Call 904-862-6769. Visit duckduckrooter.com. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jags. Duck Duck Rooter, your fully insured certified plumbing and underground utility contractor.
Yeah, that's what this is. It's being able to be around the guys. Where we finally have basically finalized this staff. Really get into the weeds of now, hey, the communication that we have with each other, The offensive staff is meeting currently right now. And then when you get into the evaluation and get into some of these formal meetings, settings, hey, we're evaluating coaches just as much as anything, and being able to give feedback and see what these guys can truly do. It's been exciting.
Liam Cohen, Jaguars head coach yesterday, the full availability and our conversation with him available at Jaguars.com and Jaguars YouTube. The new season right around the corner, and the time to get your season ticket membership is right now. You can be at the bank for every touchdown and secure your seats at Jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. JP Shadrick, John Oehser, thanks to Judy Battista earlier joining us. Hey, and also coming up tomorrow, John, Jaguars Happy Hour Radio, 4 o'clock. You'll be on for a segment.
I will be. Cool. Looking forward to that.
And then it's Prisco and Baselli for what could be one of the final times together.
Yeah, I mean,
4:15. Hope you'll join us.
It's been a great show. Jaguars fans love it. Tony's role's changing a bit, so to have him on the air, arguing with the little Italian guy, probably won't continue. But it's look, I love the show. They've both been I've known both for well over 30 years. Yeah. Tony's become a friend. Pete's one of my best friends in the business. Anybody who has enjoyed that show knows it'll be missed in the Jaguars ecosystem is the big word around here right now. It certainly
is.
It'll be missed, but I can tell you this. Tony Baselli, in the role that he's in, is having a huge impact on the organization in an incredibly positive light. He sees the details. He is having an unbelievable impact on the culture already. So whatever trade-off of not having him on the air, TB71 is, doing now, I think, what he's meant to do. So the show will be missed, but he's in the right place.
Yeah, and one more chance tomorrow to hear those two together. Maybe not for the last time ever, but, I mean, certainly for the foreseeable future, it feels like. And Tony should have some type of – we'll figure out some things to get him on the air some ways, but it just won't be reacting to a game on Monday as we usually did.
Yeah, I think the plan right now is to have a podcast with Tony. So
a little early still, trying to figure out the scheduling and everything.
Yeah, so he'll offer his thoughts, but just probably not in the same vein as on that show.
We had some knockdown dragouts on that show. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. It was good radio.
That sometimes you didn't have, there was sometimes I had no idea what Pete was going to say after a game.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes it's pretty clear.
Yeah,
and he was good either way.
That's what Pete does.
Yes, he does. So that's coming up tomorrow, 4 o'clock. We'll have it right here from Indianapolis. Let's come back in a moment. We'll wrap up this show. We've got a lot coming up today, a schedule of guests who will sit down with us here at Radio Row, and this is Jags A.M.
Floridians, do you know how close you are to freshness? It's not a plane or a ship ride away. It's not across an ocean or over the equator. It's not even a far drive. The peak of freshness is at your grocery store, and it's called Fresh from Florida. Fresh from Florida is local produce grown by farmers right here in our own state, meaning it's always fresh, always in season, and always mouth-wateringly good. Look for the sunny Fresh from Florida logo or ask for it by name where you shop.
Attention homeowners, Chelsea here. For a limited time, Renewal by Andersen is making it easy to upgrade your home during our free window month. When you buy 4 windows or patio doors, you'll get 1 free. Our exclusive Fibrex material delivers the perfect combination of energy efficiency, durability, and style. Perfect for your home makeover this season. But hurry, this offer won't last long. Visit bestwindowsflorida.com to schedule your free consultation today. Renewal by Andersen, the better way to a better window. Restrictions apply. See website for details. License number CGC 1527613.
Jacksonville builders score big with DL Cabinetry. As the official cabinet supplier of the Jacksonville Jaguars, they offer top quality kitchen and bathroom cabinetry for any project. Enjoy fast turnaround, complimentary design, and great prices. Visit dlcabinetry.com today to learn more and to become a dealer. Limited spots available. DL Cabinetry, the winning choice for builders.
Welcome back. It is Jags A.M. from Indianapolis, the Indiana Convention Center, the NFL Scouting Combine. Final couple of moments. JP Shadrick, John Oehser, thanks to Judy Battista. A busy day today here on the road, John. We've got all kind of guests lined up. Mark Ross, NFL Media, will join us here a little bit later. We'll tape all these and get them out as the day goes along. Charles Davis from everywhere, CBS, NFL Media, Sirius XM Radio. I don't know what he doesn't do. We'll ask him that coming up. Lance Zierlein, NFL Media draft analyst.
Very good.
Get his thoughts on the NFL draft and the number 5 pick especially. And Rhett Lewis, NFL Media, went to college at Indiana just down the road. But we'll get his thoughts on what's going on with the Jaguars organization. That's all coming up today. We'll have a huddle up with Bucky Brooks that we'll tape a little later this afternoon also.
Looking forward to seeing Bucky. He's the mayor of the Combine.
He is. I haven't seen him do other
You have to take a number to talk to him now.
Apparently so.
He has one of those little things. You just take it and you wait.
Call his secretary and line up some time with Bucky.
Looking forward to that. And, as we wrap, a few thoughts on yesterday with James Gladstone and Liam Cohen. It was interesting to hear Gladstone talk a little bit about how he plans to build the roster. They don't typically get too deep into it, but he clearly leaned toward the draft. I think they'll be participants in free agency, and I think over time they're going to want to try to be a draft and develop team. I liked that. I would be in favor of staying as far away from free agency as you possibly can.
Certainly frontline free agency, the big money.
And it sounds like in the long run they want to do that. I also thought it was interesting that Gladstone clearly thinks, like Liam Cohen, that this should be a much better team quickly. He said a couple times, I think you're going to see the personnel used a little differently, get a little more out of it. There's a feeling from these guys that they're not saying it and beating the table, but I think they can get a lot better really quickly, and that sort of confidence. I don't think it's false. I don't think it's overstating it. But there's a feeling they can get this turned around quickly. There are holes in the roster. There's stuff that has to be done. But I think you're going to see progress pretty quickly.
Great stuff, Johnny. Hey, good show. Let's do it again tomorrow or later today.
I'll be here.
It's John Oehser. I'm JP Shadrick. Thanks to our entire crew, both here and back in Jacksonville. And again, thanks to Judy Battista of NFL Media. Thanks to you for watching Jags A.M.